I wanted to show you some of the work I've been doing more recently on the animatronic eyeball mechanism that I've been creating. I have a video posted, I'll show a link to it, of a different approach I took a while ago that used a cylindrical mechanism to contain the ball, and there were pivots on the top and on the horizontal and vertical axes. It allowed the eyeball to move. I'm taking a different approach here primarily because that cylinder that contained the eyeball would cause interference for the design that I want to use for creating an eyelid that allows the eyeballs to show emotion and to blink and that kind of thing. So what I really need is an eyeball that floats on its own and has no obstructions around it that will allow me then to create the eyeball blinking effect. So the way I've done this now is taken a page out of the book of another designer on actually has videos on YouTube, WilletFX, who uses a universal joint in his eyeball mechanism. And it's going to be a little tricky to see here, but the universal joint provides full motion, left and right, up and down, and so forth. You can kind of see it there. And this came from an RC hobby shop, and this is a used in cars. I think a universal joint for an axle on a remote control car, as a matter of fact. And then I've got the servo mechanisms hooked up to the rear of the eyeball, one for the left and right motion and another for the vertical motion there. So I'm going to hook this up and I'll show you how it moves. The other thing you'll notice here is that I'm using ball joint connectors on both sides of both connection points between the servo and the eyeball itself. I tried a whole bunch of different mechanisms for connecting, and either they had allowed too much play so that the eyeball was really loose, or they were too restrictive, and so you couldn't get the two axes of movement, degrees of movement that we need for this. So you can see I'm using two different types of ball joints. Again, these are from the RC hobby store. One for the servo connector and one for the main connector, but those connections seem to be working pretty well, and I like the fact that they give the amount of movement I need without a whole lot of play. So you can see that the eyeball itself is pretty stable. I mean, there's a tiny little play there, but I'm jiggling this thing around right now, and it's pretty rock solid. So it looks much more realistic than when it was sort of flopping around using other connections.